When you can't trust a word coming out of the mouth of the main character, you know you're in for an interesting binge watch. Based on the Julia May Jonas novel of the same name, Vladimir stars Rachel Weisz as the unnamed protagonist, who is a tenured English professor struggling to get into the flow of her next great book. Her reputation and job is called into question in the midst of a upcoming hearing surrounding a scandal with her husband John, another tenured professor at the college who has been accused of having inappropriate relationships with several female students. The protagonist, also referred to as M, finds a pleasant distraction from her world falling apart and also finds much needed inspiration to write her next book when Vladimir, a young and handsome celebrated novelist played by Leo Woodall, joins the faculty. M quickly becomes fixated on him as the fabrications of her life are exposed to the viewing audience as the story unfolds. Now, I had no idea what the show was about prior to watching. I don't even think I saw a trailer. I think Netflix posted a sneak peek photo on Instagram and I was drawn in by the cast. I marked the show on my calendar and watched it when it was released. So I'm not going to go into major spoilers. I just want to talk about some of the main themes that stuck out for me and why I enjoyed Vladimir so much. Vladimir is 8 episodes, roughly a half hour each, so it's a quick binge, and I was automatically drawn in within the first few minutes of episode 1. M is dressed in a white nightgown in a cabin writing on notepads and tells the camera she may never again have power over another human being. It's important to note Rachel's character M often breaks the fourth wall and talks directly to the camera throughout the season. And I haven't watched that many shows or films that follow that format, but I don't mind it. It makes me feel like I'm in on a little secret in the storytelling. During this opening scene, as M walks around the cabin, she talks about her teaching style being out of touch by her students, her daughter no longer worshiping her, and how men no longer lust after her. All the while, we see she's not alone. A barely conscious man, who we later come to find out is Vladimir, is strapped to a chair in his underwear and a cardigan as M takes a smoke break outside. So how did we get to this point? And is there something sinister going on? Now the story goes back 6 weeks earlier. As I mentioned at the start of this video, you really have to take anything M says lightly because at any given moment, she could be embellishing the truth. And even when I got to the end of the show, I was thinking back, wondering how many of the events actually happened the way it was shown, or was that M's perception of it? So that was a fun element of the show. Also, Rachel Weisz is the plot. I was aware that she's a beautiful woman, but having to stare at her face for the 8 episodes, I was locked in on that alone. Her character is sarcastic and funny and charming, and she is the main reason to tune in. One thing her character kept mentioning at different moments throughout the show was that it was a different time. And that was a notion that stood out for me. M was being called out by her female students for standing by her husband and his predatory behavior, telling her that she didn't have to. But I think when you are from a certain generation, a different time, it's hard to adapt to new ways of thinking. And I think that was a thing for M. She also felt because she was a certain age that life went into a downward spiral for her, especially when it came to her sexuality and sensuality. And I think it should get better, or you should be more assured as you get older. So that gave me something to think about when watching. Would I allow aging to diminish who I am evolving into as a woman? Another theme that stood out for me was the idea of inspiration for a creative. I've always had a creative spirit about myself, but I have blocks, and it's no joke trying to push through that. So I loved watching M find ways to spark her creativity, even if it was by romanticizing situations in her head or by her questionable behavior. It made for good TV. Overall, I enjoyed Vladimir. It was thought-provoking, it had me laughing, and it kept my attention for the most part. All 8 episodes of Vladimir are available to stream on Netflix. So now I'm turning it over to you. How did you like the show if you binge watched over the weekend? And for those who read the novel, I'm curious about the structure of the book compared to the format of the show and if the ending was the same. So let's chat in the comments.